Stage is now set for a riveting panel discussion on India's Techade, navigating the road ahead. Please join me in welcoming Mr. NSN Murty, Partner and Leader, Government and Public Services, Deloitte. Mr. Murty, we invite you to come forward, introduce our esteemed panelists, and moderate the panel.
Yeah. Good morning. And I think after the first vision series by the industry, it's actually a really daunting task for us to come and talk about the way in which the government has been working and the challenges and the opportunity that in the next decade or this decade we are going to solve for and resolve for. So I think the sessions are going one by one, and should we give a minute or two for everyone to settle down, or everyone needs a minute or two to settle down, right? Okay, thank you. So I am going to be the moderator host, so I'm going to be talking the most in this session and going to bore everyone with my discussion because we are consultants and we need to speak more than everybody else. Just let me first of all thank Ekstep for the amazing work they have done and bringing this workshop to Delhi also. And Shankar, we were actually chatting up. Most of us are from Bangalore who have come to Delhi. Okay, so it's Bangalore in Delhi, by the way. So it's so Abhishek's vision has been a little bit distorted because we're all Bangaloreans out here. Okay. I'll give a delta X there. Okay, Devjani. Okay, great. So let me introduce my co-panelists here. I would like to invite Sanjay ji. Mr. Sanjay Kumar is the Secretary Education, and he has Secretary School Education, and he has done tons of large programs in labor, in education, in healthcare, in Bihar, in Jharkhand. Prior to that, welcome, Sanjay ji. I would like to invite Abhishek Singh ji, Secretary. Okay, next one. So let me invite Dr. Basant Garg, the Deputy CEO NHA, and his contributions as well as NHA's contribution has been discussed in prior sessions also, how COVID and various other applications from NHA has created a lot of impact for the society. Welcome, Dr. Basant. Let me invite Amit Nirmal ji, sorry, I'm so sorry, DDG from Ministry of Labour. National Career Service Portal. It's a phenomenal project which has been done almost a decade and it's been going successfully. He has been the coordinator and running that project for everyone. Pramod, Pramod doesn't need an introduction. He's the driver, he's the creator, the CTO of Aadhaar, and now I don't know how many new DPG, DPIs Pramod is creating. So so here is Abhishek. So Abhishek Singh, Additional Secretary METI, several things to his name. He's CEO Karmyogi, he is doing DIC work, done multiple DPGs, DPIs intervention, bringing the cloud to forefront. I'm Bhashini. I'm losing count of the number of projects Abhishek is driving. So, but we will ask interesting questions to them. And let me go back to the seat. I'll ask them tough questions. We have given some questions, and I'm going to change everything. Sanjay ji, let me come to you. And I think the entire panel and discussion has been around the DPGs, DPI. But I want to go several steps back. Have you met the basic objectives of schooling and education in India?
It's a difficult, also a very simple question. I don't know. You know, I'm very happy to see that the topic is people plus building for billions. Because inclusivity is a part of it. Because you're reaching out and you're talking about people. Let me give you, because we don't quite often realize how complex the Indian education system is. If I have to just give you some statistics for your information. You may know about it, but just as a refresher. India has 14.89 lakh schools. And out of this 14.89 lakh schools, Government of India runs 2,000. The central schools and the Navodaya Vidyalayas. The rest are all in these states, 36 states and UTs. Education is part of the concurrent list. So majority of the schools are being run by states and the UTs. These 14.89 lakh schools have 26.4 crore, 264 million children who are enrolled with us. We know them by their names. They are being taught by 9.7 million teachers. And the assessment is being done by 60 school boards all across the country. You may be familiar with ICSE and CBSE. These are the national level boards. How do you bring a kind of a uniformity and a minimum level playing field is the challenge. What are the problems? Let me just tell you. Out of every 100 people, children who are joining us in class 1, 55 are reaching class 12th. We are losing 45 on the way from class 1 to class 12th. Where are the dropouts taking place? Interestingly, from 5 to 6, because the geography of the school changes, a large number of schools are primary schools from 1 to 5. So the moment you finish your class 5 and you need to go to class 6, the geography changes, you have to go to a different school. So we are losing children from 5 to 6. We are losing children from 8 to 9. Because again, from 8 to 9, the geography is changing. And of course, after class 10, there is a dropout. So 45 children are dropping on the way. How do I keep them in the system is the challenge for us. You may push a child to a school, or a school may attract the child towards itself. Often we do the pushing part well, but we need to concentrate more on the fact that the schools act as a magnet. They ensure that the child and the parent who's sending his child or her child to the schools, they feel value in the process of sending them to children. So this value has to be created by way of pedagogy, by way of technology. I think this hall is primarily populated by people who are from Bengaluru and Delhi and who are part of the tech world. So I would be coming back to you to say as to what we need to do, but I would want to also say that tech has become part of the language. It is a language of education now. It is not something out of it which you may think. And I find this very fascinating because in 1453, Gutenberg invented the printing press. The first book which was printed was a Bible. And for the last 450 years, we have evolved on an education system which has been based on books. And now we are shifting out of it. Now we are shifting out of it, and we are shifting out so fast that many of us don't even quite understand what is happening in the larger ecosystem of which we are a part. That's the challenge. That may also be the excitement, but somebody needs to look at things, because I have always thought that education is something which is a human touch endeavor. And now from human touch endeavor, education is shifting out the way people are learning things. It is contactless. In military, they'll say that, they use the word kinetic warfare, where you are in touch. The warfare has changed. It is no longer kinetic. Something else is happening. Similarly, it is happening in education. I'll come back to you, Mr. Murty, but this is the initial statement I would want to make.
Excellent. So, Pramod, I'm just going to jump and keep on connecting these domain-related challenges back to you from a DPG, DPS standpoint. Now, how do you... So there's a dropout from a 5th and 6th and the 8th and 9th. Now, is Sunbird able to scale as Diksha to address this and keep the education as a continuum? Or is there something we need to build on top of it?
Yeah, I think the harder part is not information anymore. availability of information is plenty, and with now GPT and Gen AI and all coming in, it's going to be supercharged. But the motivation is hard to come by. Why are rich people with all the access still unhealthy? It's a very important thing to ask. What drives the drive? Is it information, pure information feed, or is it something beyond? And then how do you create that motivation in a cohort, in cohorts, to create that drive, create motivation for them to keep plowing through? Because the world is changing constantly around them, and it's not easy. And as you know, people who have been deeply involved in education know the environmental factors and the people around you make or break a lot. And the initial few years sort of make it, and then the separation is so harsh to come back to. But this also might be an opportunity. As he's saying, there's also an opportunity that we must re-look at what does it even mean. Do we want to get everybody through a bookish, exam-oriented education at all? Or is it more, the new NCF, it's, very clearly bringing out, is it more practical, more, how do we leverage and much of our vision talks, we talked about it, how do we leverage the people plus advantage? We are the youngest nation on earth, and with a large population. But unless they are in apprenticeship mode, unless they are in practice mode, application mode, just remembering, what is the use of remembering stuff when ChatGPT is giving you everything? I mean, none of us remembered anything when we started job. We could use any tool as long as we solve the damn problem, right? So collaboration, problem solving, a lot of that needs to be done. I think, people who are in the thick of it are thinking about it. Technologies like us can only provide few things. But I think two questions. On the Sunbird side, I think Sunbird building blocks. Sunbird is not a solution. Sunbird is a set of building blocks, including natural language, AI, knowledge blocks, and observability block. The question about, Kezom talked about lack of data. I mean, Tilda continues to haunt that what is going on, right? How do you proactively solve it? So that is one element of it. So Sunbird definitely can work at scale, which we have proven. Abhishek and team are now looking at it under the leadership of MOE and NCRT. Diksha is scaling to its own levels, but that's one platform. Now, both Adil and Koshi talked about network way of thinking. So you have to go beyond the platforms to a network, and that's what I think some of the early efforts in Honest and in conjunction with ONDC we are doing to bring. How can many platforms join together, like internet, to bring the scale of access to mentorship, access to guidance, access to apprenticeship opportunity, access to scholarships and funding, and access to resources by, learning resources. But none of this solves motivation. Motivation has to be we have to think about how do we create group motivation for people to motivate each other and create that sort of cohorts. That's how, in the health and all, wellness at least, we talk about how friends help each other to create, because self-motivation is very hard. Only few people tend to do it well.
Okay. I'll come back to you on the honest part of it. I have a specific question. But Abhishek ji, I'm coming to you. I think the first set of big DPIs we are working is primarily horizontal in nature. These are horizontal. For example, even the latest one you are working and which has got cutting across the domains is the Bhashini. Would you like to first talk about that, and then I'll move to the next question later?
Yeah, thank you. And first and foremost, I'd like to thank Shankar and People Plus for bringing this event here, because it's very important that whether you are in Bangalore or Bombay or Delhi, we need to be aligned for the national objectives and to ensure that we are able to provide better access to services. And when we are thinking of providing access to services, very often one metric that I always look at and I always mention is that we always take pride that we have 900 million people in India who are connected to the internet, who are accessing online services and all. But whenever we look at that number, we also realize that there are another 500 million people who are not connected to the internet. So how do we bring that set of people who are not that tech savvy, maybe they don't have a cell phone, they don't have a smartphone, they don't have connectivity, or they don't just have the ability to navigate a website or an app or go through the QR codes, recognize signals and cars and giraffes and all. So for them, it's very, very important for ensuring digital inclusion. It's very, very important that we not only have all applications, all websites, all services in all Indian languages, but also maybe move forward to enable voice-enabled interface for accessing services. And for doing so, for bridging that gap, Bhashini as a project is playing a big role, the entire team. And again, Bhashini is also a classic example wherein government, private sector, academia, non-profits, everyone has come together. The role played by Step or AI for Bharat or IIT Madras or the researchers across the Indian research ecosystem, contributing to the APIs, contributing to the data sets, and building a solution which is available for all of us to use. And it has helped us to translate all lectures on Swayam portal of Ministry of Education into all Indian languages. So the MOOCs lecture are available for everyone. It is helping us to make every service accessible. The experiment that was done by Jugalbandi, wherein people could actually give a voice note and ask a question and get a reply back on voice. That has really transformed things. So a farmer can ask, where do I get the best price for paddy? Or where do I get O positive blood group? On a voice note and get a reply back on voice. And that service has also been tried out with a feature phone on a toll-free number. So backend, all our APIs, Bhashini APIs, WhatsApp APIs, voice, the OpenAI API, generative AI APIs, all of it can work. But as long as the user is getting the reply to his query in his mother tongue, it solves a big problem. And Bhashini is playing that role. So that's really, really transforming the way the DPIs are being consumed by people. We have tried out similar applications wherein children can ask questions through a voice mode and get reply back on the Diksha portal. So those examples will really take our DPGs to the last mile, connect the remaining 500 million people, and make all of India benefit from the innovations that have been done.
Perfect. It's really powerful stuff. I think if we champion it, it could be a global asset very soon. Bhashini. Dr. Basant, NHA has done a lot of stuff. So what's the new stuff which is brewing and which is going to be launched now? And what's your wider vision on building digital healthcare systems for the country at a scale?
Thank you for having me here. I'll start with the vision. Imagine a world where our next generation has all their health records stored digitally on their personal device, right from their mother's antenatal record to their birth record, immunization record, adolescent health record. Now all this record is with the citizen and they are able to use it for availing services in the health sector. So that is our vision number one. And we are working towards it by creating the Health Information Exchange gateway. And we have made some progress in that. Our second vision, imagine a world where when you go to a hospital, the insurance company, they already know your risk profile, the doctor knows your risk profile, you are offered insurance rates, premiums, you pay for according to your risk profile, it is customized according to you. This brings in a lot of efficiency. The hospital gets its claim settled real time rather than having to wait for 15 days to 45 days to whatnot. And also, this is what we are working on with the National Health Claims Exchange. And the third vision is, imagine a world wherein sitting here today, all of us know which is the nearest specialty, which is the nearest hospital or a laboratory or a blood bank for availing services closest to us. Even before we go there, we know how busy that doctor is or that facility is. What is the price for that? What are the reviews for that doctor? So that is the unified health interface, or as Koshiji said, the open network for health services. So that is what we are building, the third main gateway we are building in the NHA. And all these gateways, they rest on registries for citizens, for healthcare providers and healthcare facilities, and the drug registry. And this is the digital public infrastructure we are building. And above these gateways, we are allowing and we are inviting the private sector to partner with us to develop premium services based on these gateways and services. So that is what is happening in NHA. What we are trying to do is to convert a fragmented sector wherein services are provided in various ways. And we are trying to get everybody on board with their consent. We are trying to make people use digital method of availing health services.
Thank you. Amit, coming to you, NCS has been in existence for a long time, and I think it's seen several waves of transformation and improvement in the infrastructure and the services that it's providing, career services. So have you measured the impact, and what has been your experience with the impact on the ground for the NCS? And where do you see the vision going forward?
Thank you for the question, and thank you for me being here. Actually, yes, it's true that NCS was launched in 2015 by the Honorable Prime Minister as a transformation of the employment services to the digital world. And the primary objective of NCS is to fulfill the obligation of the country towards ILO Convention 88, that is to provide free public employment services to the country. In this context, as Abhishek ji has just said, that there are around 500 million people who perhaps may not be having access to the internet services, or maybe not so digital savvy. So one of the key area of NCS is that it is not only a digital platform which is providing services through digital network and internet. There are physical infrastructures available in the ground, in the remote areas, in the field, in the states, districts, through which these digital services are percolated to those people who perhaps might not be able to access these services through online mode. And that is called model career centers, which we built. And so far, 400 model career centers have been established across the country. And what these model career centers do is to connect these people with these digital services, NCS portal online, and to register them and to connect them to the employers and employment opportunities. These model career centers also help in organizing job fairs, which are the basically key to provide employment to majority of the people. You see, in this country, around 98% workforce earns less than 50,000 rupees a month. And this is the workforce for which NCS cater to, primarily. Not separately, but primarily it caters to this workforce. And these people, they connect to these employment opportunities through the job fairs. And in last 5 years, I must tell you that around 40,000 job fairs have been organized across the country under the NCS portal. And around 25 lakh people have got placement through NCS and through these job fairs. Now, one of the other aspect of NCS is that it is not a single portal. It is a network, basically. So around 28 state government employment portals are already connected to NCS through API integrations to sharing their job seeker details and sharing vacancies and other aspects. And also these private employment portals are also connected to NCS. So it is a complete network of employment. And if you have seen that in last year budget announcement, Honorable Finance Minister has also announced the integration of National Career Service Portal with eShram portal of Ministry of Labour and Employment, Udyam portal of MSME, and this Skill India portal of Ministry of Skill Development. So these portals are also integrated, creating a complete ecosystem of employment and skilling through these digital networks. So this is, at the higher level, I can say that the vision or the mission of NCS is to connect to all job seekers with the employment opportunities. And I'm happy to share with you that as on today, we are having 1 million plus active vacancies on NCS. Thank you.
Thank you. If my co-panelists allow me, I want to go to the audience and pick up 2 questions and then come to the next round of questions. We'll create a little bit of interactivity. Yes, 2 questions. So if you're actually giving a comment or suggestion, I'll ask you to stop that and only ask a question. Can somebody give the mic to the gentleman?
Hi, my name is Yatish, and I had actually a question for the healthcare exchange. You talked about the risk profiling of patients when they enter a hospital. Isn't that a privacy nightmare if you're sharing information both with the doctor and the insurer? I wouldn't like my information to be shared with the insurance company, and I wouldn't like my information to be shared with all the hospitals too. So how are you going to address that issue of privacy of healthcare data of an individual?
So I think, when it comes to challenges which NHA faces, I think this is a challenge which NHA is trying to address every day, dispelling the fears of the citizens around privacy. So especially the construct around the health claims exchange and even the health information exchange is that the patient is at the center of his health data. He controls his health data, and any health data that is shared with his consent, which brings me to the consent artifact. Right? So this artifact allows the patient to be in control of his data, both in the number of records he wants to share, the nature of records, the time for which he wants to share the record to the doctor or to the insurance company, as the case may be, and all this happens with his consent. Even today, if we go to the doctor with our physical records and we show our records to the doctor, that's a consent. And then we take back that old record from the doctor. Our construct is similar, and it's just that it's digital. The patient still retains full control of his health records. Now coming to why should somebody have visibility into the record? When you are buying an insurance product, you are, in any case, entering into an agreement, into a contract. The insurance company, for its sake, may ask you for your health records, which you, as per your consent, will share with them. But then you will ensure that what part you are sharing. Maybe somebody may not want to share his mental health record or sexual health record. So that is fine. But that at the time of entering into the contract, it's an informed consent, it's an informed contract. So that is all we are trying to achieve. We are not infringing on anybody's privacy.
Any other question? Okay, I see the hand at the back, extreme end, right at the back.
Yeah, just a quick question, and I know this is already happening, but in the space of health, education, and employment, I just wanted to know about the inclusion of persons with disability. Especially in health, what's happening is if the person is caught and we know immediately that the person has a disability, it will unlock things later for education and employment. So just want to know if that thought is already gone, and I'm sure it's happening, but just for the audience, I'd love to know that. Thank you.
See, for CWSN in the schools, we have a bit of a challenge. So when I look at my data, I only find 0.86% people who are in part of our school, they are CWSN. On an average, this number should be anything above 3. And you'd be surprised that Kerala has the best figures for CWSN in the country, but that is also a little less than 2. So we are not capturing. So either these children are part of the school, but they are not being identified, and we are using technology to do that. So we have brought out an app called Prashast. Now the 2015, the PWD Act, it says that there are 21 types of disabilities. But then there are challenges. We are trying to reach out to our teachers. We are requesting them to register themselves, train themselves on the app, and also identify the students for the kind of disability may have. So we are trying, but I think there's still a way to go.
You want to add?
Yeah, so from the health perspective, yes, it is true that we have to take care and ensure that solutions are built which cater to people with disability. Our construct and architecture of the digital mission allows those solutions to be built, but it is not just the government which is going to build those solutions. Here again, we are looking forward to entrepreneurs, we are looking forward to the private sector to come in and help us. As Abhishek sir said, there are already people working on voice-to-text solutions, working on various solutions which can help to mitigate these disabilities and help people move on with life. So I think solutions to encourage learning, overcoming these disabilities, if that was your question. Thank you.
Just to add to what has already been said, and the question, it's a very interesting question. That's a problem that we've been trying to solve through several of our initiatives. Like for example, we have a project called Poshan Tracker, in which Anganwadi workers, almost 10 lakh Anganwadi workers are keeping track of more than 10 crores pregnant women and newborn children. So they are the ones who capture their data with regard to their height, their weight, their basic parameters that's entered into the Poshan Tracker app, and the Ministry of WCD monitors the implementation of that. But what we have done is that we have integrated the Poshan Tracker ID and the interface with the RCH portal of Ministry of Health, because that's the interface wherein from one set of system, the data can flow to the other set of system. And we have also made a plan to integrate it with the school education system. Because if the Anganwadi worker or the ASHA worker or the ANM recognizes a disability of any kind, and that is fed into that system, it should ultimately flow to the school education system also. So that when a child goes to the school education ecosystem at the age of 4, the school teacher should know that this system has reported that this child has a disability or a learning disability or a physical disability, and take necessary interventions therein. So interlinking IDs, making it connected of ID of all systems on the foundational ID, which is the Aadhaar, makes these systems connected to each other. And that becomes like a very valuable input. And the time taken for a new system to diagnose a disability is reduced, and more proactive actions can be taken. So that's how it's being solved technologically into various projects that we are implementing.
Great. So we have just 9 minutes left, so 1 minute each for all the panelists. The questions are very, very simple. So Abhishek, we'll start with you only. And I think this is a good use case. Which is the next use case in a department which can become a next big candidate for a DPG, DPI? And a part of that, how do you actually say that this is a DPG or a DPI? Because forget about the DPG alliance part of it. In Indian context, how do you define it and certify it and ask the departments to adopt it?
See, and taking up from what I just mentioned, like one classic problem that we face as citizens and people face when dealing with the government is that citizens are required to prove themselves to every public authority time and again. Like very often, anyone going to any public authority to say who they are, where are they from, address proof, ID proof, all kinds of things are given multiple times to various multiple entities. A citizen wants to interface only with the government, not with different verticals. And if one government department has certified or knows about certain credentials, then with the consent of the citizen, it should be easily available to everyone else. So we are trying to build up a project in which we will focus it on ask only once. Like if the government system knows what is my address or ID, then I should not be required to prove it to the driving license system, to the passport, to the ration card, to the school education, health authority, everyone. If I give my consent, then it should be made available. And this also is is something which is work in progress, but with the Aadhaar architecture and with the APIs that are available for linking of system, this is possible. And a use case that's going to be live very soon is the address update facility. Very often when people move from Bombay to Bangalore or Delhi or anywhere else, they need to update their addresses in various databases. So if my address is there in a database which is mapped with, say, Aadhaar, then I should be able to give my consent to address my databases in my credit card, bank account, driving license, wherever. So that's our utility that we have built in. It should be launched very soon. It will be totally consent-oriented, but it will solve a lot of problems. So maybe one of these could be regarded as a DPG, but the intent is not to push for a DPG. Intent is to push for a solution which solves the real-world problem of a citizen.
Perfect. You're going to solve my problem. I shifted cities, so I'm facing the address change problem already, Abhishek. So, Sanjay ji, I'll coming to you. The NCF, which was recently launched. No, Sanjay ji. National Curriculum Framework. So how does it help, and in your view, is helping improve the teaching mechanism, methodologies, and is there a linkage to digital in that?
Since I have only a minute and I have a very august audience in front of me, so let me say a few things and I'll come back to the curriculum framework also. So there are quite a number of things which we are doing in the school education. So one is that I have a database called URISE Plus. This year onwards, it is being converted into a registry. So I would have the name of each and every child, their details in the system. We are requesting parents to give their consent for Aadhaar. So if they give their consent for Aadhaar, it will be a Aadhaar-based database. Every state is also making a Vidya Samiksha Kendra. So 36 states and UTs, we are trying to create a cascading structure. So at the national level, we have a VSK. So we'll be able to monitor attendance of students, teacher attendance, and other things on a real-time basis. So these are the two things. Three things I would want to mention to this particular audience. A, our challenge is how do I make all my schools internet friendly and the availability of internet. As of now, 75% of the high schools have internet and 30% overall. So our challenge is in the next 2-3 years, 100% of our schools should be internet enabled. We are working with BBNL and link up the BBNL fiber optic line with our schools. But then we can also exploring possibility if we could do it through the Wi-Fi route. That's number one. The number 2 point which you just mentioned is that the new NEP has said and the new curriculum framework for school has been made. We are in the process of developing textbooks from class 3 to 12. 1 and 2 has already been done. We would simultaneously be creating the digital content. So Diksha would be simultaneously populated, but content creation is a challenge for us. And we would want startups, the edutech companies to come and partner with us in creation of content. The third point which I'm really worried about is, and Abhishek mentioned also, that 500 people are out of the internet connection. But then in school, the challenge is, do children have device? You may have everything available on the system, but you need to be able to access. We are also aware of the fact that we have one of the cheapest data in the whole world. So cost of data is not so much, but availability of device remains a concern for us. How do I give a device to all my children all across in all the schools where the life cycle of a device is maybe 2 years? That is a challenge, and if people can come back to us on this particular idea as to how do we do it, we would love that and we would want to engage with the industry.
Dr. Basant, one big challenge you see in the current projects you're running, which could be an opportunity for industry to collaborate with you?
So there's no one single challenge. I think the biggest challenge was reflected in the question there, the challenge of trust. How to address issues around security and privacy, how to market what we are doing in NHA and to the satisfaction of the user. The second biggest challenge is how to quickly populate the registries we are trying to populate of the citizens, of the healthcare professionals and the facility, how quickly we achieve that. And the third one is to keep everybody interested. We need to roll out new services based on those registries. This is, if people lose interest, we'll be lying and nobody will be touching us. So we have to get, people to build on those registries, build services, build applications, so that there is juice for everybody to see and to sever. Yeah. So the challenges, I think.
Great, thank you. Amitji, coming to you. how do you bring informal sector jobs and people into your NCS?
That's an interesting question. I'll need some time for that. Actually, as most of you might be aware, that in order to make a registry of these informal workers, unorganized sector workers, Ministry of Labor and Employment has an e-Shram portal, which was launched exactly about 2 years back. And this e-Shram portal has so far registered around 300 million unorganized workers on the portal. And by registering them, now we have the database of these unorganized workers, and one of the important aspects of this database is that they are registered under different categories of occupations. So we have 400 occupations of unorganized workers under which these unorganized workers are registered. And sometime I take analogy of these occupations with one of an interesting James Bond movie called No Time to Die. So there was a very interesting aspect in that movie that the villain developed a sort of weapon which was DNA-based weapon. So these occupations for us is like DNA of these unorganized workers. And sitting here, I can contact to any of those occupations across the country. Like if I want to contact plumbers across the country, I can just send one message and I can contact to all plumbers of the country, like carpenters and all those things. So this is one of the very interesting feature of this e-Shram portal. And I have just shared in my previous thought that e-Shram portal is now connected with the NCS portal. So it is that any unorganized worker who is registering on e-Shram, he has a choice on the basis of his consent. He can auto-register on NCS portal, and by that, through this process, he can find out the employment opportunities available there. And we are also in the process of bringing aggregators on this e-Shram and NCS portal, so they may have further more opportunities of employment. Thank you.
So Pramod, it says time's up, but I'll still ask the last question. So Adil mentioned about 250,000 jobs which are up for grab at L&T. There is NCS which actually captures the informal connected with e-Shram. Is there anything on Honest we can actually integrate, triangulate all these?
It's not, it's okay, few things, right? One, we are not dearth of problems. These problems are very complex, multi-dimensionally complex. There is no single family these four are not touching. Think about it. Yeah. But it's, because I'm in Delhi, I can see this. It's not easy for departments to collaborate and data share. Data protection, consent, lot of that will come. So one way to flip it is to put the individual at the center. If each of them allow the individual at the center, then I become the receptacle of the data. I carry the data. I carry the e-Shram credential. Credential can be on DigiLocker. And then I use that to apply for a job, look for a job. So it's very, very important. We flip from a departmental provisioning mental model to a citizen availing mental model. That requires less collaboration, frankly, which is the DPI story. It's just less collaboration among all of them. It's very hard to integrate and agriculture, we are not even touched, half of the departments, right? So it is very, very important that we flip that model, put the individual at the center, create, each department offers a set of credentials or set of services to the individual, and individual can connect them together, right? And the second big point, I think is very, very key, I think Dr. Basant talked about when Shanti asked that question, is government cannot solve. It's very, very, very clear. One entity cannot solve such large complex problem. You asked him, did you solve education problem? That's like bad. You can't put him on the dock, right? So in the sense, it is a perpetual problem. What does it even education mean in 2030? What does it even mean? What are you supposed to learn? So I think it is important that, Rohini says that very well, Samaj Sarkar Bazaar, her book, she talks about this bringing together all elements of our society, including private marketplace, including NGOs and so on who are working. And the missing middle, Ashish point was very, very key. There is significant foot soldiers on the ground, but somehow we don't connect them. And the idea of network, or NDC, or Honest, or UHI, is precisely that. That means one actor cannot solve. If one actor cannot solve, then you don't have to come to my portal to solve everything. Everybody is building a portal. You heard that, right? It is important you convert that to an API-based, application programming-based approach and credentialing approach. Put the citizen at the center and let many, many, many applications bloom. Because if we can harness that energy, the idea of UPI, we went from 50 million to 500 million people doing digital payments. ONDC hopefully will do some of that. The idea of network is just that. Bring credentials and data to the individual so that I know I'm a trusted person, I am a plumber, I can prove to a bank I'm a plumber, I am attested, and I can find, I am the blue dot in the map. That's what GPS did, right? Everything is around, all petrol bunks and hotels show up around me. That's how my jobs, my opportunities, my financial should come around my blue dot. I think that's what networks do. I think India is setting up beautifully for it. I think very nice.
Perfect. Yeah. Perfect. So I think that's an end note, and probably the thing is that's where the private sector innovations will come into the play. With that, we close this extremely interesting panel discussion. Any other questions you can actually, during the break, we can, the speakers are there, moderate, and we can have those questions there. Thank you so much, panel, for bearing my questions.
Thank you. Thank you for making us think about the what, the why, and the how for every child across the length and the breadth of the country.